Bobby Hep's Sunny is one of the most recorded songs of all time. Its soulful chord progression appealed to jazz greats like George Benson and Pat Martino, and it later became a jazz standard. Essentially though, it's a pop song that became popular with jazz musicians. Now I'll show you an easy way to play the chords in the typical way a jazz musician would interpret the changes. Now there's a link in the description to the chart and chord shapes from today's lesson, as well as a link to my Patreon page. Firstly, the original is in the key of E minor, but it actually changes keys several times for dramatic effect. This works really well with Bobby singing his heart away, less so in an instrumental setting. So as a result, you'll find most jazz versions stick to one key. Now it's played in many keys, but A minor is very popular for guitar players thanks to Pat Martino's legendary live version, and it also being a good key for us guitarists. It has a 16-bar form which you want to feel in 4 4-bar chunks, and you're going to need the following 8 chord shapes to play Sunny. A minor 7 with this 4-note voicing off the E string. G minor 7, same voicing. C9 off the A string. F major 7 off the E. B minor 7 flat 5 off the A. E7 sharp 9 off the A also. And finally B flat 13 off the E string. And also off the E string, B minor 11. Now those shapes are available as a PDF, link in the description, but if you go and download my chart and shapes, at least leave me a comment on the video. I'm going to show you the order of the chords, then I'll show you the key difference to Bobby's original chords and also break down the harmony for you. So we start out on A minor 7. I'm using this 4-note version. You could use 3 notes instead if you prefer. We're going to do a bar of that, and then we descend to G minor 7 for 2 beats, and we can just use that same shape, but just notice how the progression falls. A minor 7 to G minor 7, going down a tone. This leads us nicely to C9 for 2 beats. C9 works well here. You could also just use C7. That would obviously work fine too. Now let's play that and hear how it's leading us to the 3rd bar and the chord in that bar. So A minor 7, drop down a tone to G minor 7, quick change to C9, which sets up the move to F major 7. Hear it resolve temporarily there. We then complete the opening line with a movement to B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 sharp 9, giving us the opening line and first 4 bars being A minor 7, G minor 7, C9, F major 7, B minor 7 flat 5, E7 sharp 9. You notice there the A minor 7 and the F major 7 have got a whole bar, whereas the G minor 7, C7, and the B and the E both have 2 beats on each chord. Now if I just play that, it works really well in a loop, and I think that's why this song has captured so many musicians' interest. It works so well in a loop because it starts on chord 1 and it ends on the 5 chord, and more on that later. Now line 2 is identical to the first. You're just going to play that opening line twice. So the A minor 7, G minor 7, C9, F major 7, B minor 7 flat 5, E7 sharp 9 in time. Line 3 is where we get a nice twist. The first 3 bars are the same as normal, so A minor 7, G minor 7, C9 to F major 7. But when I play that 4th bar, you can hear this is a tense chord. We get that B flat 13. Love the sound of when that chord comes in. It's my favourite point in the song. I'll explain the harmony later, but it really sets up a great release into the final line, because the next chord we go into is the lush sounding B minor 11 for a bar, E7 sharp 9 for a bar, A minor 7 for a bar, back to E7 sharp 9. Now let me play the whole thing for you close up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Finishing the song, you'd want to finish on chord 1, A minor 7 to resolve at the end. Now you could adapt those changes to voicings of your choice, wherever you like to play them on the guitar. They're just what I like to use. For instance, if you don't feel like playing F major 7 here, you prefer the sound and move of it, feel of it, off the A string, by all means change the voicings around. So how do the changes that I presented differ to the Bobby Hep version? If I transpose Bobby's chords to A minor, the key we're in, then the opening line would be this: A minor 7, C7, F major 7, B minor 7 to E7. So the only differences are there's no G minor 7. We're playing C7 rather than C9, it's just a variation of the dominant, the C9. And we're playing B minor 7 instead of B minor 7 flat 5. Let me play both side by side so you can hear the difference. So here's the changes, typical jazz changes. And here is the Bobby Hep changes. I think you got the big difference, obviously the lack of the G minor 7. I think the nice thing in the Bobby version is you go up a minor third to that C7, but we miss I think the G minor 7 makes a smoother transition, adds a bit more interest. I like the going down a tone equally too. The B minor 7, rather than the B minor 7 flat 5, is considerably brighter sounding, I think, but as a result less tension in it maybe. You might prefer the sound of A minor 7 to C7 or A minor 7 to C9 and missing out that G minor 7 altogether. Just, that's fine if that's what you prefer. If you're playing with other people, just communicate that's what you want to do. The other point of difference is the last 2 bars. And on the last line, we've got B minor 11, E7 sharp 9, A minor 7, E7 sharp 9. Now that E7 sharp 9 is really useful there because it helps us ping back to the beginning, so it's a good marker of this is the end of the form. But on the Bobby Hep version he goes to E7 and then this minor cliche, so Sonny, I love you. Which you can do in a couple ways. Kind of cliche tension thing, but it sounds great, so you could do that instead if you like. Now if you're going to solo over this song, I think it's really important to understand what's going on harmonically, and it just also helps with memorizing songs, I think, and making links between the chords rather than just seeing things as just, oh, it's that chord, it's that chord. It's really important to recognize those typical movements which are happening and to develop your ear to hear those too. So we're in the key of A minor. Now if we took the A minor scale, the natural minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and if we harmonize that into chords, we get the following 7 chords. A minor 7 chord 1, chord 2 B minor 7 flat 5, chord 3 C major 7, chord 4 D minor 7, chord 5 theoretically would be E minor 7, but in practice is more likely to be E7, or like E7 sharp 9 as we've had today, chord 6 F major 7, and chord 7 G7. Now if we cross-reference that with our chart for Sonny, we've got chord 1 fairly prominent throughout, no surprise there. The 2 chord, B minor 7 flat 5 occurring a few times, and E7, although voiced as E7 sharp 9, that's just a more interesting way to voice it with that alteration. Chord 5 got that obviously quite a lot throughout. And we've also got chord 6, F major 7. Now the really big progression you get in most jazz tunes is the 2-5-1. So in this minor key, a minor 2-5-1 would be B minor 7 flat 5, E7 to A minor 7, and you can see that happening in several different places. But let's go chord to chord and have a think about what's going on. So we start out from the stable position of chord 1, A minor 7. Anything we do after this is going to work back towards that chord. That's home, we want to get back to there. We then go out of key, G minor 7 to C9. Now, on their own that might not make too much sense, but you know, if you C minor 7 to dominant, it's quite likely to be a 2-5. And it goes to F. Now you may or may not know that G minor 7, C7, F is a major 2-5-1 from the key of F. So what we've got going on here, you could look at this in two ways. You can say, right, we start in chord 1, A minor 7, and then we've got a 2-5-1 in F. Or you could look at it as you've got a 2-5 from the key of F, which takes us to chord 6 in the key of A minor. Either way, there's a very common musical structure there. That then leads us to B minor 7 flat 5 chord 2. 2's like to go to 5. We go to E7, voice the sharp 9 for a bit of tension, which then leads us perfectly to the second line because 5 likes to go to 1. Sets us up to do it again. We do it exactly the same way. So chord 1, 2-5-1 to F, and then the 2 and the 5 to send us back. So it's just that G minor 7, C9, we might want to play a C7, that's kind of borrowed from another key if you like. So that's why that sounds interesting, that particular moment in the first and second line. Now line 3 is the same until we get to that B flat 13. Don't get too bogged down in the fact that it's a 13th, that's just a nice way to voice a dominant chord for a bit of interest. But what's really happening here is that is a substitution really of an E7. It's a tritone substitution. Now I'll link at the end to my video series on the tritone, not going to go into too much detail about it. But one thing you can do, if you've got a song where it's E7, it's going to A minor, you can play B flat 7 or B flat 13 or other iterations of B flat. So if you took, say, a minor 2-5-1 in the key of A minor, so B minor 7 flat 5, say E7 sharp 9 to A minor, instead could do B minor 7 flat 5, B flat dominant of some description to A minor. Now if I do it up here, compare that, if so we went B minor 7 flat 5, B flat 13 to A minor, compare that to B minor 7 flat 5, E7 to A minor, works in the same kind of way. There's theory behind that, as I'll link to the video at the end, which breaks down everything you need to know about the tritone. And if we were to attach a Roman numeral to that, because it sits between 1 and chord 2, we call it a flat 2-7, which is the tritone. Now you'd expect that B flat 13 to lead us back to A minor, our 1 chord in the next line, but it actually moves up chromatically to B minor 11. Now this is just a variation of the 2 chord. I like it here as it differentiates it from the B minor 7 flat 5, makes for a nice point of difference, but also the melody is heavy on the note E at this point in the song, and that's the top note on this B minor 11, so I think it works really well there. So we go 2, then to the 5 chord, which helps us resolve back to chord 1, which is followed by a quick 5 chord at the end to set up the whole thing to go round and round again. Now I've broken down all of the chords and harmony for you on this one, but this one requires a really good groove in terms of rhythm, something either Latin or funk in terms of feel. Now over on my Patreon page this month there's a comping study that shows you the way I like to comp these chords, as well as a sunny chord tone study for practicing your arpeggios, a solo guitar arrangement, and also a beginner and intermediate solo, breaking down all important solo concepts on this particular song. There's a link to that in the description. And that B flat 13 in this tune brought up that important topic of tritones, and if that's something you've not got your head around yet, then you're going to want to. So I put up on the screen a link to my video series that breaks down everything you need to know on the tritone. But if you found this lesson useful, then please leave a comment and hit the like button. Don't forget jazz guitar lessons with myself, Andy, every Wednesday. Until next time, you take care.